Hey everyone, Sam here, and welcome back to another episode of Learning from Modern, where I take a successful deck from the Modern format and see if I can adapt its game plan to Historic or Standard. Today we got a really fun one for you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that algorithm stuff. It helps out a lot. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So today we're taking a look at Blistercoil Burn. We've got this great article by Jim Davis up on coolstuffinc.com. If you don't know Jim, check him out. He's another great streamer. First Magic streamer I ever started following. He's got a good article here about Blistercoil Burn. The basic idea behind this deck is that you have a bunch of Prowess creatures. Blistercoil Weird, Monastery Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage, and Bedlam Reveler is in there. Not really a huge part of the game plan, it's more of your curve topper and refill, but they all have prowess. So you want to cast as many spells as you can to get all these small creatures a lot bigger, a lot faster. And you're doing it with burn spells, so you can deal a lot of damage straight to the face, deal a whole bunch of damage in a very short period of time. The deck pulls this off with a lot of cantrips and free spells. So for free spells, we've got things like Gut Shot, Mutagenic Growth, Phyrexian mana spells that you can cast essentially for free. Manamorphose replaces itself both in mana and as a card. And then you've got the flashback on Lava Dart. So a whole bunch of free spells that really just get you a whole bunch of velocity, let you keep rolling and get these creatures larger and larger and larger. But in Historic, we don't have access to most of this. We have Soulscar Mage, great. No Swiftspear, no Blistercoil Weird, no Bedlam Reveler, none of those free spells. So how exactly do we pull this off? Is it Wizards? It is. It's Wizards. Is it Wizards? In Historic, we have Adeliz the Cinderwind, which gives all of your wizards prowess. I initially brewed this deck up back when it was almost entirely legal in War of the Sparks Standard. We just didn't have Soulscar Mage back then. I used Burning Prophet instead, which is a 2-mana 1/3 with pseudo prowess. But Adeliz gives us a great opportunity to get a whole bunch of free spells a different way. The main way that we do that in this deck is with good old Slapcaster Mage, Dreadhorde Arcanist. Casting spells from our graveyard is how we're going to get our free spells. In some ways, this gives us greater potential than the modern version of the deck, but we're more heavily reliant on the synergies within our deck to make it possible, which makes us weak to removal, because we have to have all of our pieces assembled in order to go off. Rather than having turns 1, 2, and 3 where we deal a bunch of damage, we're going to have turns 1 and 2 where we deal very little damage, and then turns 3, 4, and 5 where we deal it in chunks. So with Dreadhorde Arcanist, it can flash back cards from your graveyard with mana cost less than or equal to its power. So we have a bunch of 1-mana spells here that we can take advantage of, but with Adeliz on the field, it will pump the Arcanist's power whenever we cast a spell, which allows us to flash back bigger and bigger spells. So what are the bigger spells that we have access to? Well, a big one for us is Chart a Course. This gives us more card draw capabilities than mono-red versions of the deck. We get a lot more back, and when it's flashed back with Dreadhorde Arcanist, we don't have to discard because Arcanist has already attacked, even though we're still at that very beginning phase of the combat phase. Then we've got our burn spells. We don't have Lightning Bolt in Historic, so we've got to do it in a couple different ways. Wizard's Lightning is a perfect fit. As long as we have any of our creatures on the battlefield, this is Lightning Bolt. And then screw the critics, we got to enable Spectacle, very easy for us to do in this deck, and then it as well is Bolt. If we cast 2 spells in the turn, these can be flashed back with Arcanist for a whole bunch more damage to the face or some straight removal. So what else do we have going here? We've got Opt, which is our simplest cantrip. The Scry is very important here. Our lands, we're only running 20, but we get to a point of diminishing returns with them very quickly. So scrying away useless lands is really big for us. Crash Through, straight from the modern version of the deck, gives our big creatures trample and gets us more cards. Same with Sprint is a nice one. It can let us get an attacking Soulscar Mage or Arcanist out of nowhere, but a lot of times it's really just a way for us to pump up the power on an Arcanist when we don't have Adeliz. That gives us some good access to our larger spells when we really need them. Shock, it's a staple in Historic at this point. It's definitely worth playing. Soulscar Mage is special in this one, not just because of its -1/-1 counter abilities and the fact that it already has Prowess, but when Soulscar Mage and Adeliz are out together, it gets +2/+2 every time you cast a spell. So this creature will get very, very large in this deck. It's not uncommon to see it with 7 or 11 power. Really, really nice fit. The only meta calls that we have here, I've got 2 copies of Braid. We really struggle with some specific artifacts, especially the Great Henge, Embercleave. Having the ability to get rid of those is really helpful for us. If you're running into life gain decks, the Angel decks in Historic a lot, you might want to sub this out instead for Lava Coil. Lava Coil will deal 4 damage to creatures, which is really, really important when you're dealing with all those 4 toughness creatures. When they have a whole bunch of 4 toughness creatures you need to get rid of, our 3 damage and 2 damage spells are just not going to cut it. But if you can Lava Coil, flashback Lava Coil, you're going to be able to clear the board enough to stay ahead of their life gain synergies. The other decks we're weak to are like Grixis Control, things with a lot of removal, because like I said, we really rely on having all of our pieces assembled, specifically Arcanist and Adeliz together, in order to go off. If we have just a couple of creatures here and there, and they're not the specific combination of creatures, then it's harder for us to get everything working. We're doing this in best of 1, so no sideboard here, and we're going to start it off with the Historic Shakeup today. We get to avoid some of those meta decks since we're playing an off-meta deck, see what we get, and then we'll jump into some ranked games after that. So here we go. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Alright, so no blue source for Opt is a little on the annoying side, but we do have 2 creatures and the lands to cast them, so on the back of that we'll keep. Opt coming in later is okay because of the value we get out of the Prowess. Yeah, mono red aggro. Expect to see a good chunk of that. We are still going to run out our creatures quickly. We don't know if they're playing very many burn spells. And it is going to be important for us to have a board. Ooh, no, an Izzet deck. Sprite Dragon? Alright, Shock's a decent draw here. I'm going to hold the Arcanist because we have the Sprint. And I'm going to go ahead and pass here. We have a Braid and Shock up. We'll just see what they do. Pyromancer's fine. Interesting. Yeah, I think I'm fine taking this. Alright, I think I'm going to do my best to keep the Arcanist safe, so we're going to go ahead and end step shock this Pyromancer. They definitely have an instant speed something up. And if it is a burn spell, I want to give our Arcanist the best chance to survive. So let's lead on Arcanist. Drawing another one here is nice. If they do burn some removal here. Now this is a wizard, so they could be running Wizard's Lightning. We're more playing around shock on that last one, because if we attack into the Pyromancer and it deals 2 damage, shock will finish things off. There's our blue source. I think I will keep that. So we're going to remove the Lava Runner, even though it's tapped here. While dealing damage to them is definitely important, if Lava Runner is enabling something like Wizard's Lightning, I do want to get rid of it. And at some point this will become a 2-2, so I think the removal is worth it here. Yeah, there's the Wizard's Lightning. To the face. I understand they want to deal damage here, but I think it was right to remove the Arcanist in response to the sprint. This card is just way more powerful than people give it credit to be. There's a reason it was banned in Legacy. Part of that, of course, is the card quality in Legacy. The 1-mana spells are just top tier, as good as it gets. But this is, anytime you're getting card advantage and mana advantage out of a single card, you're going to be quite a bit ahead. Arcanist really does it all. Its only restriction being in the combat step is pretty special. Fae of Wishes is an interesting one here. Casting granted, looking in the sideboard. Not something you usually see in an Izzet deck. Grabbing a Storm's Wrath. Alright, so we're definitely just going to hold back our creatures here. Let's go ahead and shock in the Steam Vents so we can opt, and then we will opt again. Another Wizard's Lightning, I think I'm happy to take that. Just taking the opportunity to refill on cards. Charter Course is a little less exciting because it's going to be a little while before we can properly enable it here. I think I want to be able to deal damage after they board wipe. And there's an Adelies. That's the perfect thing to rebuild with. So let's go ahead and go to damage. We're going to hold these spells to take advantage of these creatures after the board wipe. If they Storm's Wrath here, yeah, they're learning their lesson about the power of Arcanist. Yeah, there we go. But they spent 8 mana to remove my 2-mana creature that also cast a number of spells for free. So my mana advantage is huge here, and they also took 2 turns to do it. Alright, let's go ahead. I think at this point we'll just play both of our creatures. If they have a shock for Adelies, that's a bummer, but I think it'll be worth it to have these two together if they don't have the removal. So we're going to take the risk and be aggressive. So from the graveyard we can get back a sprint at the moment. Pumping the Arcanist doesn't do much, that's our only spell. They have their own Adelies. That's fun. And they're going to Fae of Wishes. We'll go ahead and attack with the Adelies. Alright, so we can empty their board if we want to, and I think that'll be worth doing. Let's go ahead and we'll use the Abrade since we're definitely targeting a creature. That'll leave us the Wizard's Lightning to go to the face should we need to another turn. Interesting brew from our opponent. I guess Fae of Wishes is a wizard. So this is the Wizard's Mirror, but a very, very different deck. They found their shock. And another Fae of Wishes. So they do have a blocker at the moment. There we go. Alright, we got 2 lands, both colors, 2 creatures, a little bit of removal and some velocity. I think this is worth a keep. We'll lead on Mountain. If we get a Steam Vents or a Sulphur Falls, this pathway on red is definitely preferable. No dice there, so we will play this on blue so that we have Adeliz up should we draw any land. With just Forest, I think we sprint for the Scribe because we really do want this land. We might as well get that extra damage in. I mean, Opt is okay, but then we are not casting Adeliz. So I think I would rather just try and find that land. See Forest, we usually think Elves. Yeah, there we are. Pretty decent matchup against Elves. They need synergy like we do, and when we have a plethora of burn spells available to us. There's our other source. Let's go ahead and play this on red. And I am going to hold the burn spell for the moment. Alright, so the Clan Caller is decently important, and it being on the battlefield gets them another elf at this point, so I think we will remove this. And there's an Arcanist. Alright, so we can play Adeliz and swing, or we can Arcanist and flashback removal for this 2/2. I think we just want to get Adeliz down. Having the surprise Arcanist when there's something better to remove will definitely be worth our time. With Elves, we really want to take care of their Lords and their token generation creatures. A random 2/2 isn't doing too much to us. Alright, so I think Opt is for a future turn. I think what we really want here is to Arcanist, sprint, flashback, removal, and swing in for a ton. Shock is nice, we'll definitely take that. Especially against Elves here. So in the graveyard, yeah, we've got the Crash Through. It might actually just be Crash Through here, giving trample to that Soulscar Mage. Here we see the double Prowess in effect. We get that removal into our hand. They have no decent blocks. Alright, built a board. Our creatures are still huge though, and the most important one is evasive. No sneaky reach here. Triple blocking the Arcanist. We're dealing 5. Alright, so we've got them to 3. We have 2 damage in hand and 2 evasive damage on board. We're in a great spot here. Easy to see how we deal damage in chunks. Alright, so they've got a reach blocker here. And an Archdruid. Alright, so let's lead on Opt. Best thing we can find, of course, is just Burn. Don't think we want the other Arcanist. There we go. And that's just how we drew it up. So even through Collected Company, building them aboard out of nowhere, getting multiple of their lords down so it's harder to remove their creatures, we pushed through. That's the beauty of this deck. When you get that early damage in through the creatures, then the burn spells to the face are just there to finish things off. Alright, so this is another interesting one. Again, no blue source for Opt. Double Arcanist is less exciting than Arcanist plus Soulscar Mage or Adeliz. We'll go ahead and give this a try. We are on the play. We'll get to leave a shock up and then get our Arcanist down on 2. Again, with this deck, I'm pretty reluctant to mulligan. I really need to see a hand with no creatures to consider it. We really need our density of spells. Every time we mulligan, we're setting ourselves up to run out of gas that much faster. Forced again. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and get the Arcanist on board. Being able to double shock or double opt next turn definitely has its benefits. Alright, so we're looking at a Gruul deck here. Yeah, and they're not doing anything, so we're just going to go ahead and block. That's definitely going to be worth shocking. So I think what we do here is shock and double opt. So I'm going to go ahead and shock in the steam vents. We're going to shock down their creature. It's definitely an enabler creature. We don't want more lands. Scrybug, draw it anyway. Charter Course is okay. We do have extra lands to pitch to it. Yeah, I think I'll keep that. I would definitely prefer a creature, but getting some extra velocity here will be nice. And I think I'm going to hold this skewer in case they play something I need to remove, because it's currently my only removal. Lothus. So, fun thing, this is indestructible, but when we have Soulscar Mage, we're dealing damage in -1/-1 counters. So we can actually remove this card. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to lead on Chart a Course, see what we get, and then probably double crash through. Yeah, let's go ahead and discard the extra mountain. Another crash through. We're going to hold that one for turns where we have something to do with it. Spellbreaker is annoying, but we can deal with it. Alright. Let's go ahead and whoops. definitely need one of our prowess creatures here. Arcanist isn't going to win the game on its own. There we go. All right. So we are playing this now because we do want to shrink this questing beast. So I didn't opt there because I'd rather do it on turns I can attack with the Soulscar Mage. Adeliz is a great draw here. Let's go ahead and Adeliz first. There we go. So I'm going to Wizard's Lightning the questing beast because of the death touch. That's important for us. There's no guarantee we'll draw another removal spell off of our flashback chart, of course. So we're going to take care of this now. Then we're going to River Glide on blue so that we can opt as well. Collected Company now. Brawler and a Pelt Collector. Another Adeliz, I think we'll bottom. Alright. So they have no effective blocks. Yeah, I think I want the refill here rather than some removal. Fantastic. We see how big this Soulscar Mage is, right? 9 power, trample damage. Double blocking there. So opponent's down to 5. We have a haste creature, a burn spell in hand, and another burn spell in the bin. They're taking the crash through. The ability to Soulscar Mage. Yeah, so they're hitting all the wrong things here. What they really need to get rid of is our ability to deal damage, and we can do that here in spades. Adeliz helping our Arcanist get there. Let's start with 2 to them. Let's get our crash through. So the crash through here is less about the velocity and more about getting Arcanist to a power large enough to flash back the Wizard's Lightning. But they're scooping there. They see the writing on the wall. Alright, we are 1 game away from Diamond. Alright, we got 3 lands, both colors, 2 creatures, some refill, some removal. This is great. Only sad thing about this hand is that we're on the draw. Zhalfirin Void. Not a card you see every day. Another one. Is this an Ugin deck? What are we looking at here? Alright, so they're not giving us too much to think about at this point. I think we just go ahead and swing in and get an Arcanist down. Don't even know if they're running any colors yet. Wouldn't mind an Abrade for this. This is a good card, and the life gain on it is actually relevant for us. They have topped a lot of cards here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and play this on red. And I think I'm going to chart a course and sprint so we can flash back our chart a course. Probably discarding a crash through, if anything, here. I think we just ditched the extra sprint. Adeli's perfect. That's exactly what we need here. As we saw in the previous game, having our combination of all three creatures is very powerful on board. They're not giving us any pressure at the moment, so we just want to be able to deal damage, and Adeli's is what does that for us. All right. So we can add Adeli's, and then I guess we're just going to bring back a sprint here. All right, so Mountain is actually fine here. It's going to let us triple spell next turn, so I will keep that on top. So now they have a lot to worry about. Blast Zone isn't going to be fast enough to deal with what they need to deal with. They're not quite to Ugin. I think we're faster than that this game. So unless they have some serious answers here, this is going to look like a turn 5 win, which is pretty solid. Opponent's in the tank, looking around. Alright, well they have that win, and getting rid of the Arcanist is not going to cut it. I mean, one spell and they're gone. We're going to go ahead and triple spell. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, they had to hope that our hand that we had filled was all lands. There we go. Diamond tier 4. Moving on up. Carpe DM is our opponent. This is a fantastic name. Alright, we have 2 lands, both of our colors. Double Adeli's is, again, less exciting than Adeli's plus anything, but it is a creature in our hand. This is a little slower than we'd like, but we do get some selection out of the opt. Again, I'm reluctant to mulligan, so I think we're going to go ahead and keep this one. It might be on the slow side, but opt might help us speed up. Turn 1, in the tank. Alright, so now we have a decision. We drew a 1-drop creature, which we're very happy about. We see Mountain on the other side, which could indicate some burn. I think we're going to lead on the Soulscar Mage. We don't have a ton to do on 2. So the ability to opt on 2 just to pump the mage is could be worth it. Snoop! Alright, so we got some goblins on the other side here. Snoop is of course excellent. I would love to get our second Soulscar Mage down, but I don't think that's happening. Let's go ahead and attack. I doubt very much they're going to block. Yeah. So we'll opt here. Shock is perfect. That way we're not wasting a Wizard's Lightning on this Snoop. We get to just use the Shock for it. And get in for 3. Snoop's definitely an important card, worth removing. I feel like our matchup against Goblins is usually pretty good. It does depend on the hand. Like us, they rely on having a combination of creatures, unless the game goes long enough to get to Muxus. So we have an advantage in that we have more removal. Getting rid of their creatures before those synergies compile is fantastic. That said, right now we're stuck on 2 lands. So I think we're going to do a similar game plan here. Just attack with the Soulscar Mage. Choosing not to block... I would really love to draw off this Crash Through and get a land. I don't know if I want to let them have a turn with Snoop out. I think we got it, though. Alright, so let's go ahead and Crash Through. Sprint's not what we want to see. Really important that we draw some lands here. Our deck is built on casting multiple spells a turn, and while we don't need very many lands to do it, we do need some, especially red sources. As we can see here, this island is doing nothing for us. We may as well only have 1 land at this point, because the only thing that this is doing for us is casting Adelies at some point in the future. We can't even Wizard's Lightning and then skewer the critics at this moment. Are we going to see a Ringleader? No, Matron. There's Muxus. So, important for us to get rid of... There we go. As much as I'd like to cast Adelies this turn, we have to get rid of these goblins. So I think what we're doing is we're attacking to try and get damage through, so we only have to pay 1 for this skewer, and then we're removing 2 goblins. They've got 4 lands? Yeah, so we have to remove 2 goblins or we're definitely seeing Muxus. Perfect. So I could have gotten 1 more point of damage in there if I had used the Wizard's Lightning before damage. Probably should have, but that is alright. We will survive. We're going to start by getting rid of the Prospector. So we have slowed down enough that there's a chance they can resolve their Muxus and just win this game. It's definitely going to be tight. Getting their first swing back the other way. Alright, so I think we're going to Soulscar Mage and Samus Sprint so we get that Scry. What we really want to see here is some removal. Shock is great. So we have them to 9. War Chief, of course, is one we want to get rid of because it's part of what makes their Muxus the 1-card kill. And Cranko's very good here. All right. So I think... We definitely need to remove this War Chief. I think we're going to play a Soulscar Mage and sit back on defense so we get the Prowess pump out of our shock next turn. We're going to see a lot of goblins, but thankfully they're not going to have haste. And there's the Muxus. Let's go ahead and shock this War Chief in response. And hopefully don't hit another one. They did. So that's probably game here. Woo. Well done, opponent. That is something beautiful. Yeah, we are just very dead. Muxus is a powerful card. It can do some stuff. I feel like this matchup is usually pretty decent for us. Like I mentioned, we had a pretty slow hand. Getting stuck on 2 was a problem there. We were in that game for sure. Just needed to go a little faster. All right. 2 creatures, 2 ops, some removal. I think we'll take this. Not the fastest. Of course, our fastest hands are the ones with Soulscar Mage, but we will definitely give this a try. Have shock just in case we need it. Looks like that's not going to happen. We're not going to be hyper aggressive and shock the face right away. So ideally next turn we draw land and play Adelise. If not, then we can double opt. Assuming this lives. Snoop again. Alright. So I think we are just fine. Don't think we need our 3rd Adelise. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and shock down the Snoop. And then off again. Just need lands. There we are. So we can end step opt again. All right, getting themselves some blockers. Guess it doesn't really matter. They're all just 1/1s at this point. The main point of that is just to boost the Arcanist and remove one of the blockers so that they can't triple block and kill it. Trashmaster. Definitely worth bolting. Alright, so I think we chart a course, bolt, flashback, chart a course. I think we will ditch the extra land here. 4th land is good, 5th land not so much. And they're going to scoop there. Seeing the value, eventually we're going to start dealing those extra spells straight to the face. Yeah. That's more of a typical Goblins matchup for us. Getting to flashback or removal spells is a really big deal. It's the same thing against Mono Blue Tempo or Elves. Whenever we're able to remove multiple things from a single spell for essentially free, we're going to stay ahead pretty well. Alright, 3 lands. Adelies is, of course, the slowest creature for us to be starting with here. But I think we do keep... Soul Warden. Alright, so we're up against a life gain deck here. Definitely one of our toughest matchups, and we don't have a creature on board early. Arcanist is huge here. We definitely need to be able to flashback our spells. So while Soul Warden is annoying, it's not the worst creature they have. We're going to go ahead and hold this shock for a little bit. Bishop of Wings, that is definitely one we need to remove. Yeah, and we're not drawing what we need to draw. This might not go very well. We are already so far behind. So you can see how in this matchup Lava Coil is really important. If we had a Lava Coil onto their Bishop of Wings is removable, and then they don't get the trigger off this Resplendent Angel. So we're in a tough spot here. Triple Wizard's Lightning is definitely helpful, but there's a chance that we are just already too far behind. So we're going to go ahead and play in Adelies. We can't attack. Alright. Yeah, you can see 4 toughness creatures is the largest problem here for us. Yeah. Now we have a 5/5 that can't attack into their 3/4/4s, and we're already at 8 life. So we're going to scoop here. Tough matchup for us. They definitely had a great draw. Bishop on 2, Resplendent Angel on 3 is fantastic, and we weren't able to remove that bishop right away. Alright, we got Soulscar Mage on 1. We got some ops to figure some stuff out. We'll go ahead and give this a try. Another Soulscar Mage? Sure. They're likely only having Burn as removal here, so getting multiple creatures out is important. And it's another Goblin matchup. We don't have Burn of our own at the moment, which is a little troublesome. Skewer is Burn. Not the most exciting, but I guess we'll take it. So we go for max damage here. I think we need to hold off. We're probably going to need them force them to block stuff in the future. I am going to go ahead and skewer this Snoop, though. Snoop is just a very good card. Okay, a Braid plays. Would really like to get an Arcanist here, but a Braid to remove an important Goblin I think is fine. I think we're gonna crash through just to get another card in. Adelies is great here. All right, so now we're gonna hold everything back. Swing for 6. So next turn, if we draw land, we can Adelies and Abrade. If not, we can use Sprint for some surprise damage. Prospector. All right. So out of these 3, Prospector is, of course, the one we want to remove. And while these mages aren't going to have trample this turn, that's okay. They're going to be big enough to force blocks. Did I misclick? Oh, I misclicked. I was trying to target the Prospector and I selected Destroy Artifact. Not what I wanted to do there. Still, lethal attack. They have to block. And let's hope that that misclick doesn't punish us too much here. There's the Muxus. What do we get out of it? No haste, and we got a flying creature. That should do it. Play bad, win anyway. Yeah, they're digging. And that'll do it. Yeah, so obviously if we don't misclick and we destroy the Prospector, we never see Muxus and there's no suspense on that turn, but made it through anyway. So here it is. Wizards Prowess Burn, our version of Blistercoil Burn, here for Historic. If you want to play this deck, it's a hyper aggressive deck. It's a lot of fun. Tweaks, of course, if you have the wild cards, make sure you got a full set of Sulphur Falls and a full set of Riverglide Pathways. Basic Island is by far the worst card in your deck, and if you can fill these out, then you might be able to drop down to 18 lands, add those Stormwing entities, and go to town. So we're gonna call it a night. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.